Hey, welcome back to the studio. It's Rich, and I just had to do some dynamic figure sketching. One of my favorite things to do, one of my favorite subjects to sketch is the dynamic figure. And if you've watched my previous video on dynamic anatomy covering what it is, basically it is an artistic exaggeration of the scientific anatomy. Basically. So you're drawing what you see and what is anatomically, scientifically correct, and then adding what you want to see. So, for this video, I recently got the Jim Lee Artist Edition of all the X-Men stuff, and it's not all of his X-Men stuff, but it's a great selection of his X-Men run, and it is amazing. It is inspiring. It is so satisfying to see all the imperfections. This may sound super negative, but man, that is like one of the best things you could see. These scans of his work are so clean and so clear. You can still see the blue line. You can see whiteout, and not all of it's whiteout like, oh, somebody messed up here. In this case, it would probably be Scott Williams or R.T. Bear, but no, a lot of times it's like they're using whiteout for effect. But you can still see the blue lines, some sketchy lines that sometimes, yeah, some whiteout, they were doing a correction or something. You can even see the notes in the margins that Jim Lee and Scott Williams were doing for the colorist, for them to take notes or make certain artistic, decisions. And it was really, first of all, this book is printed at like its original print size. So the print size on like these comic boards is 11 by 17. Now when you include the margins and everything, this is like 20 inches tall. 20 inches tall and like 12 and a half wide, something like that. This book is huge, and being able to see these notes, the original lines, it is really inspiring, and it's really great and really helpful to see all this stuff. And the only way it can be more perfect is when you realize this isn't really like, it's not like a Picasso or Leonardo da Vinci, labored art piece that is absolutely perfect. It is a finished product right here, and it's really not. It's really beautiful. It's really great stuff. But when you see that, you can still see some of the blue lines, some of the sketch lines that the inker had to erase, but was like so embedded into the paper. Like it's still there. That's the only thing that could have made it more perfect, is seeing that these guys aren't perfect. Because as a reader looking at Jim Lee's stuff, I'm like, Jesus, his work is so precise, so perfect, so detailed, and he's doing it just as fast as all these other comic artists, but at such a higher level. It makes you feel like a certain way, and like you can never be good enough, you can never rise to that. And it gives you a certain imposter syndrome, especially if you're an artist on my level and you're posting stuff on Instagram or YouTube. You totally feel like an imposter, A lot of people, compliment me on my work, and I'm like, I'm really not that great, because I'm thinking Jim Lee and Art Germ and, all these great artists, I'm really not that good. But compared to them, I'm not that good. But compared to many others, I am pretty good, and I feel like I have something to offer. So that's why I started this YouTube channel. But anyway, let's get into this figure that I'm drawing here. It is one of the most iconic images of Colossus I can think of. And it's in this book, the Jim Lee Artist Edition of his X-Men run. And yeah, I believe it's from X-Men issue 1, the huge 8 million copy selling issue. Colossus busting through that mansion wall. Yep, it is. I think it was probably my first comic ever. It was one of my first comics. My uncle gave me a bunch of comics from the 90s speculator boom that he no longer wanted after he realized they probably weren't worth much. So he gave me several, 3 or 4 foot long boxes of comics. And a lot of them were the same issue over and over again. And a lot of it was this issue number 1. Along with New Mutants and some other stuff. I mean, there was some pretty good variety. But I swear there was 20 copies of X-Men number 1. And this image really stuck in my mind, and it's probably, Jim Lee has a lot to do with why I got into art, comics, and why I'm here, talking to you right now. It's because of Jim Lee. Another one I would definitely say is Joe Madureira. I think most people know him as Joe Mad. Created Battle Chasers, and if you aren't familiar with the comic, you've probably heard of the gang. Yeah. So anyway, I was just doing a study. Had the book open next to me and kind of I didn't do a perfect rendition. I always do it slightly different. I try to get the pose, and I try to just build my visual library of things that I can do. And it's kind of saved in my mind, and the way he draws and exaggerates his figures. It's really amazing. He's on another level entirely. And of course, I can never just leave it as these rough sketches anymore. I always have to try to clean them up, and I try to make them just even cleaner and a little more crisp and perfect and beautiful. And I don't know why I started doing this, but I love erasing and redrawing shit and trying to make them more and more perfect. Because for so long, what I did to practice was these 1-minute sketches, 5-minute sketches, even 30-second sketches. And I did this for probably 2 years. I was under the impression that was how you practice. That's how you got better, because I just always heard comic artists had to be fast. They had to be fast, and they had to be able to do a page a day, and I was definitely nowhere near there. And I was like, well, obviously the more sketching I do, the more figures I do, the better and faster I will increase my skill level, which it wasn't entirely true. It made me a little faster, but I don't think it ultimately did that much for me. If you want to become faster, what you need to do is not do these 1-minute sketches, 5-minute sketches, trying to put as much detail into these quick sketches as possible. It's not what you need to do. You just need to practice. Don't worry about the speed that you're going at. Worry about building up your hand-eye coordination and building up your level of detail that you can convey in a drawing. And so basically you're either training your hand or you're training your eye. And I find what I'm doing now is retraining my eye to see more, and building my visual library and remembering more. So that, I think, it's definitely increasing my skill level. It's increasing. You can go to my Instagram. You'll see that I've been doing some different things. It's not just anime, it's not just comic books, it's a lot of women that I see in advertisements, and it's kind of like this pin-up kind of stuff. It's not on, good paper. It's kind of these sketches, but I'm doing them a little bit more detailed, and I'm taking them to the inking stage. I feel like that's increasing my art, and it's training my eye. And that's one level of it. The next level is then training your hand. Training your hand is no more than just drawing a lot. Drawing a lot, learning what your best stroke is, whether it's pushing towards you, pulling away from you, going at certain angles, and I kind of know exactly what it is, and it's kind of more of an arcing motion away from me. Anyway, this is going way down deep in the weeds that most people don't really care about or really know anything about. But there's I forget his name, but some comic book artist said every artist has one good stroke or one good line. He said it one of those two ways. Basically what he's talking about is you really just throw down one good line and then you rotate the paper around so your hand is always throwing that one really great line. Because especially if you're inking or painting, because brushes and stroke wheels are pressure sensitive, it comes down to all this fine little motor skills, and maintaining a certain level of pressure to get a smooth line. Now with pencils, you don't really have to worry about it nearly as much as you do with a brush. But yeah, that's basically, training your hand. Now when it comes to speeding up is all about the two of those combined and having a level of confidence. Now, I'm pretty fast. You can see me here. I'm drawing in real speed right here. I'm not going slow. This isn't considered slow at all. I don't know what people consider fast. I guess that's subjective. But this isn't slow. And when you factor in confidence in your line, confidence in your skills, and you're throwing down correct lines, that's automatically going to speed you up. You will be erasing far less. And you will know exactly what you're doing far more. So there's going to be a lot less guesswork and all that stuff. So my advice to anybody worried about speed is don't be worried about speed. Matter of fact, don't even think about speed. The key to speed is confidence. If you ever watched the movie Shooter with Mark Wahlberg, he says something in the movie when it comes to shooting. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And basically that's exactly what it kind of comes down to. Don't necessarily have to slow down, but being smooth in all of your motions makes you faster. And if you aren't rushing, then you're going to be accurate. So, yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents on speed. Jim Lee is a prodigy, an absolute prodigy. Never will there be anyone else like him. His level of detail and speed, and he just kind of revolutionized everything when he stepped in, and especially on X-Men. And everybody could tell from his work. Not only was he really great at drawing muscular, dynamic figures, but also really great at drawing beautiful women. And then his storytelling was just amazing. And he had that incredible level of detail, not just his figures, but with his environments and backgrounds and everything. Just mind-blowing. I don't think I could say enough about Jim Lee. I don't think anybody could. I think that's why we don't really hear too much of other people talking about him, because it's like, well, what can you not say, or what can you say that somebody hasn't said? Like, there's just no getting around it. He is absolutely one of the best, and he will be remembered forever. So, I mean, look at Batman. When you picture Batman, I guarantee you're picturing an image that Jim Lee drew. Jim Lee's Batman is the definitive Batman. And I mean, look at when Jim Lee got on X-Men. His version of the X-Men kind of became the definitive default version. They made the 90s X-Men animated series, and it looked just like Jim Lee's comics, minus a lot of the hatching. I mean, because you can't really animate hatching, but his style cues and proportions, that were all there. So one major factor of dynamic anatomy or drawing dynamic figures is perspective, and having body parts overlap and having parts of the body come out towards you and others going away from you. So like that top version of Colossus, the hand coming way out close to you and the thumb is overlapping his face, and you have that one leg coming towards you, the other leg going way back in space to where the foot is really small. That all plays a part in having dynamic figures and showing space. This one below is obviously Wolverine, and you're going to see how Jim Lee, and now I'm doing it, his one arm is going back behind him while the other one overlaps in front of his torso, and that's how he kind of pulls off some dynamic figure work there. And it's also about twisting the body in as many places as you possibly can. So knowing the human anatomy in that way is very important. Sorry, getting a drink. Absolutely important to twist the body in as many ways as possible to get that dynamic work to it. So, and that's another thing I'm training my eye on right now, is how many ways can you really twist and move a body. You know, when you think about the different parts of the body, how they interact, where the joints are, and there's more joints than you really think about. Especially when you think of the hip and the pelvis, how many ways that can really bend or twist the body. If you guys are enjoying yourselves and you like content like this, please click that like button, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. I only do this on my channel: comic book art and anime art. I do some coloring, some painting. I'm trying to work on my own comic. Hit a little bit of a roadblock. I have 10 pages penciled and inked, and story-wise, I'm kind of stuck. I'm not the best writer. I think I come up with some really great concepts, but I have trouble when it comes to the dialogue and stringing out the full story. And yeah, that's what I'm stuck on. I think I need to find a collaborator, find a writer to collaborate with, and that will, I think if there's just somebody else working on this with me, then I feel like, well, another collaborator, you know, working on the story would absolutely move this along faster and easier. And then I would also feel like, you know, great, there's a team, there's another person that I'm responsible to, as well as they're responsible to me. If there's any writers out there that are hearing this, or anybody out there that knows a writer, tell them to hit me up on Instagram or email me. I think my email is in the About Me part of my YouTube channel. Just go on over there. But yeah, I mean, having a collaborator makes any project easier, I think. And when you're stuck, you know, you got to know your limitations, and I think I need some help, because I don't want to make a bad story because I'm too prideful, and because I don't want to do that, it would just die here. But I would prefer not to stop working on this project. I want to keep going on it if I can. And to do that, I think I need another writer. Anyway, I appreciate you guys watching this video. If you're enjoying it, click that like button. Subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. I recently reached 130 subscribers. I am super proud, super happy, especially considering only 5 to 10 of my subscribers are probably like friends and family. So I'm really happy with this, and I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you. Bye.